Good afternoon, and welcome back to another session on my channel, Caribbean and Latin American News Now, where you get incisive and biting political commentary. And today we are going to have a very open conversation with you in terms of, is the United States about to fall? Now, this is a heart-to-heart conversation because this is a topic that many people, many political commentators are expounding on and have been expounding on for quite a while. And I am not sure if you have yet read the book, The Sorrows of Empire, The Sorrows of Empire by Chalmers Johnson. But this is a very interesting book to study and to, interact with because it really gives you a deep understanding of US militarism and imperialism, which he aptly described as Siamese twins. The two cannot operate without the other. The empire shields militarism. So the United States has to wage wars around the world if it desires to maintain its empire. So we need to understand that wars are not made to be contained. It is designed that way to be waged so that the United States can, prop up its empire, its military empire. And that is what we are suggesting here. Now, I am of the impression, and I embrace biblical teachings, including that of Revelation 13, which saw the lamb-like beast, which many Bible scholars have pronounced as the United States, as being a symbol of the United States, because the United States was the only country in history, in biblical prophecy, that was likened to a lamb. And a lamb in biblical prophecy is a symbol of Christ himself, a symbol of innocence, a symbol of freedom, okay? A symbol of a republican state, republicanism. That is how the United States came up. But not long after she had come up, she decided that she was going to be involved as the others in slavery. So she was a lamb-like beast. She was not a lamb. That's not what the Bible says. She was lamb-like. She behaved as if she were a lamb, but she wasn't. She was the typical beast, an image to the beast that was before her, which would have been the Roman Catholic papacy. Now, we are going to look and we're asking ourselves, is the US about to fall? My humble opinion, and as someone who has been following history and politics for quite a number of years, maybe 2 decades or more, I can say that the United States at this juncture is not going to fall that easily. Now, what I think is about to fall is the democratic segment, the democratic component of her existence. If we are to study the United States, we must acknowledge, even though we see that her freedoms are being whittled away daily and rapidly, we must acknowledge that the United States still has some democratic process and some checks and balances. And the Constitution is still there, even though it has been whittled away. Okay? But there are still aspects of the Constitution that are still binding on the state. And until that goes, then we know that the United States, as a democratic society, will have collapsed. Now, I think that the democratic state is about to collapse, and we're seeing that every day. And Trump's role in the office of the presidency is not helping, it's really solidifying that aspect, that ideology, that fact that the United States is on its way to democratic state is about to collapse. However, I do not think that its military state, which is the empire, is about to collapse anytime soon, because the United States has made the sacrifice to invest huge sums of money into the military arm of the state, and allowing, as it were, the democratic state to decay, to collapse. And that is what is happening as we speak. Now, Chalmers Johnson, in his last chapter, which he titled The Sorrows of Empire, the entire book is titled The Sorrows of Empire, Militarism, Secrecy, and the End of the Republic. So I think what Chalmers Johnson was alluding to is that militarism, secrecy, are going to be the prerequisites, the prerequisites rather, to the fall of the Republican state, to the fall of the Republic. Now, Chalmers Johnson has advanced 4 signs that the United States, is on its way out and that it will fall as the Soviet Union did. And he was an astute scholar also on the Soviet Union. In fact, he was a China and Japanese scholar. So he understands communism very well and studied it in depth, in great detail. Now, here are the signs, the 4 signs that Chalmers Johnson, the former American scholar, political scientist, suggested would be the signs, the palpable signs that we should be watching. Perpetual war, that's sign number 1, that the United States is about to collapse. We're seeing that wars are being waged every day. The recent war that we're seeing now that is being actually birthed, hatched, is the war on Venezuela, the war on Nicolas Maduro. Before, right throughout the 21st century, rather, we've been seeing wars after wars being waged by the United States of America. So the perpetual wars, there are no signs in sight. There's no end, rather. There's no end in sight. That's what I should have said. There's no end in sight in terms of when these wars are going to terminate. So we can see the perpetual wars are being waged around the world with no end in sight. And that's why he used the word perpetual, unending. Okay? Now, the loss of democratic constitutional rights. We're seeing that in the United States. We're seeing that we cannot say a lot of things because of hate speech. Or freedom of speech is being curtailed, and also being violated. So very soon, you are not going to be able to express your thoughts because you will be accused of thought crimes. So this is also another sign of the collapse of the United States, because where there's no freedom, there's not going to be any prosperity. Okay, I can assure you of that. And number 3 is the loss of truthfulness for propaganda. Right now in the United States and the world at large, but we're speaking about the United States, one cannot decipher between what is true from what is false. There is no way of distinguishing between these 2 realities or non-reality. Okay? That is what is happening now. You hear something on the media and you don't know if it is true. You have to go and check many sources before you can confirm whether or not that particular statement, that particular story is true or not. So this is the 3rd sign that we know that the United States is about to collapse, the loss of truthfulness for propaganda. Okay, and I would say the democratic arm of the state, the military arm of the state might last for a while, but citizens living there will have lost their freedoms, and they might have to live in that state in which they are going to be controlled, okay, for a long, long time. Okay, their rights are going to be abused and violated. They will have to endure living in that state for a long time. And the 4th sign is bankruptcy, because of the huge numbers of wars, the perpetual wars waged around the world, which are extremely expensive, the state is going to fall. Okay? Now, listen to what Chalmers Johnson says here. Roman imperial sorrows mounted up over hundreds of years. Ours are likely to arrive with the speed of FedEx. If present trends continue, four sorrows, it seems to me, are certain to be visited on the United States. Their cumulative impact guarantees that the United States will cease to bear any resemblance to the country once outlined in our Constitution. So the constitutional freedoms will end because of US imperialism and militarism. But how long will that US imperialism and militarism last for? One does not know. However, one can carefully predict that the sorrows of the democratic arm of the empire is about to collapse. So make sure you distinguish between the military arm of the US empire and the democratic arm of the US empire. And my thesis, the thesis that I'm advancing in this video, is that the democratic arm of the United States empire is about to collapse. What sayest thou? Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. And remember to subscribe so we can grow our family and we can have some very, very enlightening and informative discourses. All the best to you. See you in another one. Ciao.